Well, hey, hope you're having a great day. I'm going to talk to you a minute about liquid white. All right, so there are three main base coats that you use in Bob Ross oil or wet on wet oil painting, and one is liquid white, and there's liquid clear and liquid black. So, gonna focus on liquid white. Here's mine. Okay, and so I'm gonna turn my camera to the canvas, and then I'll pick up with talking to you there. All right, see you in a bit. Okay, so right here I have just an 11 by 14 El Cheapo canvas that I've put gray gesso in, I'm sorry, it's an acrylic based primer. And if you're not familiar with why I do that, just look at the video that talks to you about, you know, preparing your canvases. This is great to have so that you can easily see how much liquid white you're getting on your canvas. Speaking of liquid white, I have this jar right here. Okay, and I have a knife, but now you can use a plastic fork or spoon to stir it. Just don't be too vigorous with it because it is liquid. All right, and so I feel a little bit that settled to the bottom, a little bit of pigment, but not a lot. Okay, just stir it. I'm going to get the excess off my knife here, like this. Okay, and now just going to use my 1-inch brush, get a little bit off there, see how I can kind of clean that off. Alright, so I'm going to show you really quickly how to apply this. And when you watch Bob or you watch me, it tells you, or if you look at a book, it'll tell you or will tell you what is on the base of the canvas, because you need it to be wet. For it to be the wet and wet, you have to start with the wet surface. I'm going to grab a book really quickly. Season 29 book. Any of these that you look at on the back, it's going to tell you what exactly you need in order to paint that. For instance, this is black gesso with liquid clear, but we're looking for one with just liquid white. Here's a perfect winter day. Okay, and I can tell by looking at it that it's all liquid white, and the more you do, the more you'll be able to, you know, spot that. But don't always think you know, because sometimes I thought I knew and turned out I was wrong. Maybe it was a liquid clear and liquid white mixture. Okay, because sometimes we mix those. Alright, so it says use the 2-inch brush to cover the entire canvas with a thin, even coat of liquid white. Alright, so the liquid white is going to help the colors that you apply not only to stick, because it does make the canvas a wet surface, but also is going to soften those colors. Alright, back to what I was doing before. I got a little bit on my brush. I'll get a little more. I might even get it off the lid. You can put it in a condiment cup. Let's see, I've got some here. I had one right here. You can put it in there, and then you can keep a lid on that because it doesn't dry out very easily. These are not very expensive to buy, and you can keep it capped, and that is easier to work with. It's also, if you spill a big jar of liquid white, you're going to be kicking yourself, but if you spill a little condiment cup, then it's not so bad, okay? Alright, so here we go. I'm going to get just a little bit on the tip and go in, and I like to put a little smile in the middle. And then I was taught to go around the edges. Alright, go around the edges first. Now, if you have a worn brush, I'm going to grab, like here's a 1-inch brush that's kind of worn. I call that a scrubby. Then you could always use that. I'm going to switch now. I'm going to use this to cover my canvas. That way, these nice soft ends don't get worn out so quickly. These nice soft ends make great blending little workers when it comes to blending the soft sky, or even putting the little tiny goobers that we use for the highlights on bushes and such. So anytime you can, use an older brush, an older 1-inch brush. I know you might not have an old one if you're just getting started, okay? So I'm going to get a tiny bit more paint just like I did before. Look at that, very, very little, okay? Right here I felt like I needed a little, here and here. And now I'm going to hold on to the canvas because I'm going to put some pressure on here. I'm going to come in. Sorry about that noise. There we go. And I'm just really making this nice and thin. In the middle, I start doing X's, so I'm kind of getting ahead of myself. But I'm going to go all the way around. So you see how I pulled in all the way around, and now I'm going to come in. I didn't tighten this. No wonder it was making so much noise. Okay, and then I do the little figure eights. So let me give it a try. Touch my fingers lightly. Oh wow, I love it. Look how little, all right? That is the amount that you need. I used to put a lot more. It wasn't a lot, but it was more than that. And when I realized that I needed to have even less, just way less, my paintings really started turning out better, okay? So that is how you apply liquid white. Now, what are some other applications or uses for liquid white? Well, let's talk about that really quickly. In the earlier days of Bob, teaching the joy of painting, sometimes he would have you put your brush, he would say he put his brush right in the liquid white, and then he went into cadmium yellow. That's because a lot of those paints weren't made to be soft paints at that time. Now you really don't have to do that very much. However, I will still do it some if I happen to get a tube of cadmium yellow or another highlight color that is too thick, because that can happen. I've been doing this 19 years, and no matter what paint manufacturer the Bob Ross company has used, there have been times that I got a tube of paint that was a little off consistency wise. But the more you learn about the method, then the better you get about tweaking things. There are things that you can know even instinctively that nobody can really teach you. It's things that you learn by playing around with it. So keep in mind that every time you have, like Bob calls them, they're truly happy accidents, because you'll learn from those. Okay, so I'm digressing a little bit. But let's just say you're doing a highlight that you want to be, you're doing what I call highlighting the highlight. Let me see if I can find something on my wall. Okay, all right, let's just look at this one. It's a wee bit scratched up, but let's look at this highlight here, okay? Now, when I first put my initial highlight in with mostly, there's cadmium yellow, there's Indian yellow, but here in the brightest area, if I want to go a touch brighter than those colors, I can add a little bit of liquid white, and that helps in two ways. It helps that highlight color to lighten up, because when you add white to a color, it's going to lighten up in color, but it'll also help to thin it, because as you build the highlights and you highlight the highlight, then your paint consistency needs to change, because as Bob would say, a thin paint will stick to a thick paint. And that's what I'm talking about. You're gonna pick up on things. I'm gonna do my best to show you these things to where you can instinctively make a bush just look like it just gets so much texture, so much, what is that word, depth, and anything you're painting. You can use the not only the lighter color, but the thinner consistency that you get by adding a touch of liquid white to a highlight color, or even to, well, like your snow, sometimes you need liquid white mixed with some titanium white to make snow like crystals, and the snowy highlights on bushes. Okay, also need to use liquid white sometimes on the lay of the land snow, because the titanium white by itself might be too thick when it comes out of the tube. So in those lessons, I'll teach you how to mix liquid white or even liquid clear into white for snow. There are so many possibilities that'll take your paintings. When you apply these, it takes your paintings to the next level, to where people are like, wow, and they are ready to give you that happy buck. Happy buck. So anyway, liquid white's a pretty cool tool, and I have heard of people saying that they make their own, and I have not. I've made my own in a pinch, but I don't even remember how I did it. Okay, so anyway, I mean, if you want to make your own liquid white, you can just get a little titanium white and drop some liquid clear in it even, and stir that around, and you would have that. So it's not that hard, but as far as making a recipe of it, I don't know of a recipe. But that is it for now. I'm going to jump in next and talk to you about liquid clear. All right, I'll see you then. Bye.